Professor Lang, why are you so sure that you are correct and that they, DEFRA, are all wrong in their approach?
It's very simple. It's because the science says it. We know all these risks are coming. You've just got to go and look at the National Risk Register and then think food on it, and you'll say the world as we've known it hasn't yet been tested. I mean, that's why I heckled in a genial way Shane. It's because I don't think we're putting the bits together. It's not the DEFRA. In fact, if you go and read the DEFRA Food Security Report, that Terry and I speak like natives, that came out the day before Christmas for maximum publicity in December 2022, just when the things get tricky, it says, well, government's got to decide this. But in fact, the science is very clear. You know, just about all the combination of things that your worst nightmares on the food system can happen all at once. You know, the importations from Spain, climate change hits water, temperature, and oil all at once. Just look at what's just happened in Libya now. Now bring that to Spain, where the biggest source of food imports for Britain. It's going to happen within 20 years. So it's not me being a clever dick. It's the whole of science saying there's a gap between policy and the science.
Okay, Terry.
I just wanted to add, frustratingly, Tim always seems to be proven right over time. So 10, 15 years ago, he would say to me...
Is there anyone taking notes here?
He would say things like, there's a danger that the UK government's approach to food security is being dictated by or being written by the UK's largest retailers. And I just used to think, well, you know, he's away with the fairies. I've just seen them do it through two big crises. We've got senior officials really close to senior figures in Tesco's deciding how we were going to respond to big crises, existential crises that the UK faced. And so regrettably, I find myself agreeing with Tim. And time and again, he's highlighted things that have come to pass.
Okay, I just want to ask you about, because I think we had that 54% figure, didn't we, of the...
That's the government's figure, by the way.
Yeah, produced here. So realistically, can we achieve food security by producing all of what we eat here in the UK?
No one says that we can do that. Britain's #1 favourite fruit is bananas. Well, you can produce bananas, but you've got to use a lot of power to do so. It's stupid to do so. But what you can do is produce a lot that currently you don't. Right. In other words, the climate, the skills, the capability, the land is all there to grow more fruit and vegetables, more horticulture. Believe it or not, I mean, you people will know this, we import huge amounts of meat. We could grow it here. How we grow it becomes a problem because we've produced, Terry and I were talking earlier, the pig industry, the poultry industry. We have made those develop on a very industrial scale by bringing in cereals, soya, and indeed growing cereals for them. It's a total waste of land and water. If you just apply water as a template for the criteria for what a good food system is, you wouldn't be doing what we're doing at the moment. I mean, you just wouldn't be doing it. You'd grow differently and you'd eat differently if you apply a water framework to sustainability. And the problem is we've got at the same time, we've got a nitrogen cycle in which the food system is a major driver. It's now damaged the planet. The phosphate cycle. These are basic physics and biology and chemistry that keep the planet operating. The food system in the last 150 years has been one of the biggest drivers of that going AWOL. The biodiversity extinction that has gone on. Agri-food is the biggest driver of that. Food is the biggest user of water on the planet. The biggest user of water on the planet.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not me saying it. My job is about putting all the bits together. That's all that I do and my colleagues. And there are now a lot of us. 30 years ago, when I first met Terry, there were very few. My centre, my university, was the only one in the world trying to put the big picture together. Now there are lots of us. Go and read the National Risk Register. It puts it all together, but it doesn't do it for food. You could read the whole of that. I'm sure Shane reads it nightly. It is are just a massive pressure source. It's why in my world we talk of polycrisis. It's not one crisis. It's not an energy crisis. It's energy, climate, biodiversity. It's all of these things at once. So the pressures are building up.
Okay.
That's all we're saying. And when Shane asked me to come and talk to you, I say, okay, well, that's not my problem, it's your problem. And I'm saying, I think you've got to do analyses and preparedness which thinks even bigger than you're doing at the moment, even bigger.
Okay. I want to do the questions, if that's all right. Terry, how does the UK balance land usage between food, housing and biodiversity?
So look, the government will shortly come out with its land use strategy, and it will try to make some of those difficult choices. But from our perspective, it has to be about land sharing. This isn't an enormous country, but by land sharing, I mean this is about, particularly when it comes to food production, it's about making it more sustainable, doing the sorts of things that Tim's just described. So we probably are still producing chicken, but we're probably feeding those chickens on insect larvae. We're probably making much better use of water. We're probably developing that integrated water strategy that I talked about. It's about a really, I think, a much more multifunctional approach to land than perhaps we've had in the past.
Okay. Just because we have just been talking about it, the figure that we said, the 54%, if that's too low, what's the optimum self-sufficient production percentage that we can have before we call our food supply secure?
You go first and I'll go second.
Okay, great. Look, I wouldn't put an absolute number on it. What I would say is that if what we ought to be doing is looking at how it changes over time, when we look at the pressures on it, and then we start to have the debate about what might be desirable. And to Tim's point, there's some stuff that we're really good at, that we enjoy comparative advantage in, and then there are other sectors where perhaps we need to step back. So I'd be loath to start to talk about an absolute number, but I think what we should be doing is looking at the trends, and we should be looking at where things that we should be good at, where we start to go into decline. There's probably a very good reason for that, and I can tell you today we don't have those conversations enough as an industry and with government. You
wanted to come in.
I think I don't think there is an optimum number, partly because there's two variables. One's population numbers as well, and as population grows, you don't know whether there's enough capacity to meet population and growth. My point is just fundamentally about security comes from diversity of supply, and that's diversity within the UK. Fundamentally shortening and simplifying supply chains in lots of cases, but it's also about thinking about where is food coming from around the world, and who has access to what food. And this is the thing where I'm starting to sound a bit too Tim-like and doom-laden. Access to water, access to batteries, access to all these different resources that we need are going to start falling into these economic and geopolitical camps. And the UK has to think about what supply chains it has access to. And it's the best ones are the closest one, the UK, but there are other markets where we need to have strong supply chain links with as well. And the cold chain and how the cold chain develops and provides that solution is vital.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not a doomster, by the way. I'm an eternal optimist. But that's despite the evidence. The evidence is not good. But I think we're clever as people, and I don't think these are insurmountable problems. But we won't surmount them unless we talk about them and stop fantasizing about them. In my book, Feeding Britain, because I was asked that question by peer reviewers, I said, well, 54% is, I think, dangerously low. France doesn't have that. We're probably the next France in terms of capacity, or certainly the next Spain. I don't think it's unreasonable to be aiming for an overall 80%. Why? Because in 1982 we were 82%. It was our maximum. I don't think we should be 100%. I'm not an autarkist. I'm from a free trading family. I'm not against trade viscerally. At all or intellectually. It's a very good form of resilience. But I think it's actually a moral position, if I may say, that we don't use land that we could be using to grow food and instead say, well, we'll have others, land and labour, because it's cheaper or because we've done it for 200 years to do it. I think it's just stupid. Absolutely stupid. I think it's a new imperialism. Why is the Caribbean growing bananas for us and not feeding its people? It's a lock into a post-slavery legacy. A bit of it's a big issue, I tell you, a very big issue. About where is the food and food availability. It's a big issue in the FAO and in the WHO.
Okay,
So I think if we grew more, it would be more sensible to aspire. But I think it should be done at the regional level. It's what the resilience forums should be about. It's what the regional development agencies were doing in the late 2000s, and then they were abolished. Terry knows that. I know that. We need to get back, if not regional development agencies, we need to have something like that that encourages the northeast of England to grow more food, this area to grow more food. The Lancashire moss, the whole area between Liverpool and Manchester, where the first railway system went in, it grew the green grocery for Liverpool. There's now, when I was researching my book, 1 farm is left growing green grocery. That's just crazy. The capacity is still there to do it. It's just they've been driven out of the market.
You said I could stop you if
You
we're
can.
going over time, so I hope you don't mind. With respect, I'm going to there. But we do take away that figure that you said about 80%.
Well,
which is great.
I floated it to
Brilliant.
get people thinking.
Yeah.
The National Food Strategy ducked it and said, well, we can't do that. It's up to the politicians. Well, that's up to us to pressurise the politicians.
Right, okay.
It's actually up to you.
All right, fine. We have been warned and told and absolutely understand what
Encouraged.
Encouraged, enthused. We have lots of reading to do, Professor, and we are going to, because you really have inspired us. So thank you very much. I think we'll leave it there, panel. Can we say thank you to all of them? Tim, to Terry, and to Shay. Thank you very much.